Okay. Welcome back to Restaurant to Another World. Anime review episode number 16. Believe it or not, this is basically reviewing the final episode of season 2. Episode 24 for the anime. Pork Loin Cutlet / Buffet. Now, the title of a pork loin cutlet, that comes from chapter 80 of chapter 4. Buffet is a complete and original segment. So, we start up with this older woman who is in the regular world, and she's able to unlock the magic door that goes to the fantasy world. And of course, she sits at a table. Of course, she apparently has been in a restaurant many times. She's been there for some time. And she sits to the guy who's one of the great wizards, who actually was a teacher of Victoria, the half-elf princess from one of their kingdoms of the world. She's apparently an old friend of his, and they have hints of the fact this woman is actually an old friend of his. Yeah, this woman's an old friend of his who supposedly died but has actually been alive for all this time. They have known each other for 70 years, and I will get to more. So, she has the pork loin cutlet, and of course they mentioned this guy named Dinky. It turns out, they reveal in this episode that Dinky is actually the current master's grandfather. And that, thanks to some flashbacks, apparently that he had fallen in love with this woman when she was younger, because she had watched the shoreline. How the heck this happened is not exactly thoroughly explained. She's fighting a demon, and then she got transported here. Yes, a reverse isekai. Yes. Something that's never explained. They fell in love, they got married. She still has the wedding ring. Now, what happened to the master himself, the previous one? The way they explained in the series is that he retired and handed it out to his grandson. So, Anita, of course, knows her name is actually Yomi. She finds out her name is that because RT, that's the name of the wizard guy, he's the one who actually likes pork loin. He actually likes pork loin cutlet. He knows her because we're old friends. I chatting for a while, and I love going to flashback, and then of course they have their beer. Of course, she puts her order through. She loves the food, so it's not as good as Danky's, but still good. She definitely approved. And she asks Nita, like, "Can I see the master, please?" And then he's like, "Oh, I thought so." Yep. And of course, Nita and Kira find out that this woman, Yomi, is actually the master's grandmother. And according to RT, that's what Yomi calls him, the wizard guy. Excuse me, even though they look kind of similar, but according to the master, he takes more after his grandfather than his grandmother, which RT agrees with that because he knew him. And of course, the reason why she's there because she gave him something, a master key to the restaurant. This particular key will end the restaurant. If he breaks it, the power will be gone. And she thought, though, that when, of course, the grandfather left, that the restaurant should end with him. But according to the current master, he says, no, he actually did want to continue. He continues under his request that he do it. And she's like, okay. And of course, Artie's like, hope to see you again. Who knows what heck that'll be. And thanks to this key, she's able to unlock a closed door. Yep. And there's also a celebration going on. Why? Because Seraph and Argent, the princess of the Empire, and Seraph is the prince of the Sand, Empire Lane of Sand, they got married. Off screen. Yeah, they had a proposal last episode, and the reason why they're all doing celebration because it's the after party. Because of course, why not have an after party in a place where these two met? Yep, and of course Seraph's making a speech, and his sister gets her stomach rumbling. I think it's quite funny, and of course they all have this delicious food, like buffet style, and then of course they bring out the wedding cake. And he, of course, brings out the big knife. And, of course, Seraph, being a prepared protective husband. Oh, before I continue with this, I should mention something about the grandfather. I forgot to mention this, that in the flashback, because she had just come out of the water, being a gentleman. I forgot to mention that. But his because he's like, oh, is this master gonna attack Andrew? No, it just he brings up, oh yeah, it's a tradition in their world where the bride and groom cut the cake. And yes, that is definitely true. I've been to several weddings, so I know for a fact that is completely 100% true. And of course, they cut the cake, they eat it up, and of course, we actually have, I don't think his name is, he's usually fried shrimp. He tries to do the same thing with Sarah, like try to confess to her and try to post her, and she's like, and of course, Anita basically is seeing this as a potential for possibly losing her employment with her. And Sarah's like, no, I'm not interested. And of course, it's been very heavily hinted at, and pretty much ever since these two, they like to argue so much. It's very heavily hinted that these two have a thing for each other. They might explore it later on. Yeah, and then of course everyone's like, have a good time, and then the episode ends. Excuse me, on a bit of a happy note. Excuse me, yes. I gotta say, damn good episode. And I've been thoroughly enjoying watching this whole series. And can you believe I only started watching this series just... Oh, how long ago was it that I started watching this series? The very first episode I watched of the series was almost 2 months ago. And you're thinking, really? It's really been about 2 months since you watched the very first season show? And the answer is, yes, it has been 2 months. Yes, I'll give my final thoughts in my next episode, but this has been a pretty enjoyable series so far. Okay, so that's episode go through. Now, before I do my next anime, which is going to be Case Closed, I'm going to do 2 more videos. The next one is going to be my final thoughts on the season, and the third one, the second one, and then one after that is going to be what it's like to be adapted for the books. Okay, next video. Bye.